Yeah, I can hear that. I hear all the rain. We're also live.
Oh, we are?
Yeah. Well, we are now. I mean,
It's
but yeah.
raining. It's pouring.
I don't think it's raining near me, though. I still
It is
can't hear
pouring
it.
here.
This is a real-time weather report. The
This is-
diversity of LA weather. It's raining at Tina's. You can hear it. Maybe. I don't know if everyone can hear it. I mean, I can hear it because I got my headphones going, but I don't know if everyone can hear it. But welcome to Status Coup. I am Ron Placone.
And I'm Tina-Desiree Berg. Today is Monday, January 9th, 2023. Lots to talk about, starting with an attempted coup in Brazil from the far-right fascists that really, I'm going to call it déjà coup. I didn't come up with that. I'm stealing it, but it's pretty funny.
I'm sure it's out there. Yeah, I'm sure that's. I mean, it's still. Yeah, it's very clever. But yeah,
it's very clever.
That's out there.
It's out there.
Let's start with the picture. Well, wait, no, we didn't finish the preview. I'm sorry. So we got. We're going to be talking Brazil. We're going to be talking. AOC had some things to say about how progressives work within the party, and we're going to kind of dissect that. It's in relation, of course, to the speakership thing with Kevin McCarthy and how the Freedom Caucus withheld their votes, and we thought they should have done that before with Pelosi, and they didn't. So, you know, she had some things to say on MSNBC and on her Instagram. We're going to be going through that. And a nurses' strike is happening in New York, and Jon Farina was on the ground covering that. We're going to watch some of that. First, smash the like button. Don't just smash it. You got to smash that like button. Boom. There it is. It's a new year. It's a new you. Smash the like button. Do what you got to do and smash it. So we're going to start with Brazil and the coup. So let's pull up that photo. Tina's not seen this yet. Tina's been totally... Oh, look at that.
Oh, shit.
That's the guy. So he's dressed...
Oh my God, he is exactly like our shaman. He's the Brazilian coup shaman. Wow, that's...
There you go. So it happened. Look at that.
I can't. Wow.
So
that is déjà coup. Déjà coup.
So Brazil basically had their version of January 6th. I'm sure you guys have heard some about this already, but they had... Yeah, they got in too. Should we go to some of the footage?
Yeah, let's play some of this, some of these clips. So so they came up. They had a protest that was scheduled, in very much the same way. They broke police barricades around the Capitol, went into the Capitol, their equivalent of the Capitol building there, the presidential palace, the whole 9 yards. So let's, Colin, let's play a couple of these clips so people can see what happened.
Completamente destruído. Olha isso. Chovendo aqui dentro. Uma destruição em todos os andares. Vou tentar subir aqui, caralho, tá um cheiro de pimenta muito forte.
And I think there's one more I pulled. So that last one, they were actually pulling a police officer off the back of a horse and beating the crap out of him. So a lot of similarity that we saw with the January 6th insurrection here in the United States. But what if I told you that this is where we are at globally, global fascism, that there's connections between what happened here in the United States on January 6th and what is going on in Brazil currently? And we've had a buildup towards this, as we did here in the United States. This didn't just kind of surface in the last couple of months, right?
You know, it really does say something about our Overton window, though, before we continue. Like, let's keep in mind. So a bunch of fascists had an insurrection because Brazil elected a leftist. In the United States, you know, a bunch of fascists had an insurrection. Why? Because the United States elected a neocon. Just to put it in perspective. Just to put it in perspective.
Right. Yeah, no, you're not kidding.
It wasn't their first choice of a neocon, so they were very, very angry. It's like how for someone
because they want a fascist. They want what they want. You know, a lot of the
they got one though. It's just a more subtle one. They got
It's
a
a more
more
subtle
subtle
one.
one with Joe Biden. I mean, that was kind of like just the aside I'm getting at here, where it's just like, how amazing is it if someone didn't know anything about the United States and they just like fell into our so-called democracy, and they were just like, so what are these people angry about? Well, they're the right wingers, and the guy who won, what is he?
Also a right winger. He's just not a fascist. I mean, these guys want fascism.
He is a fascist, but yeah, I mean, we could sugarcoat it if you want, but he is a fascist.
I'm going to sugarcoat it. I don't think Biden's a fascist. I don't.
I think he is, but
I think he's a neocon. You think he's
What's
a fascist?
the difference?
There is
What's
a difference.
The difference?
We'll
Not
have to table
really.
that for another day. Yeah, come on now.
I think there's just some aesthetic differences. That's about it. That's about it.
All right. I wanted to play one other video because I want to highlight something here about what's happening in Brazil. They are using the same exact playbook that the Trump supporters use in this country, right? So the first thing is to delegitimize the real election, the outcome, right? So he didn't actually win the election. The problem is the voting machines. The problem is this, right? So that's first put out there, floated around. Then it becomes the reality is I'm the freedom fighter if I'm going to fight to overturn this illegitimate election, right? So our guy didn't win. It's illegitimate. I don't like it. So it was false. It was fraud. I'm going to fight for my freedom now by putting my guy in. So, I mean, there's a whole psychology that happens here. But I wanted to play this one video. And again, some of the signs you'll see are in English. So it's not all in Portuguese.
Also, it's a dark and stormy night.
It's a dark...
I'm just saying that because I could like hear the rain. Really. Can you guys hear the rain? Tell us in the chat. Can you hear Tina's rain? Tina is streaming from a tent. That's how dedicated she is. She's in a tent in her yard because that's just where the internet was strongest. It rains in LA, things get weird, and it's raining in LA. And Tina's this tent in my front yard is where I get the best Wi-Fi. So I'll see you there, and you can hear the rain.
You can hear that, yeah. It's wild, right through the roof. It's just really heavy rain. It's practically hail, maybe. Anyway,
here's the thing too. I always have to reiterate this. The very definition of bad journalism, well, there's a lot of definitions, but I think a very poignant one is when you start with the conclusion.
Right, 100%.
And that is what happens here time and time again. Like it's not like, you know, if you're going to bring about some issues with our voting machine, I can't speak for Brazil, but if you're going to talk about the United States, like, yeah, that's a fair critique. But when you just start throwing factors out there that, yes, well, they're factors, but then you use that to be like, well, and that means this, but there's no evidence of this you're talking about.
No, and in fact, there's things in place to prevent that. So to me, the argument can be, and I agree with this, should this code be proprietary to these corporations? Absolutely, it should not. I think that's really messed up. It should not be that way. But, you know, having said that, if we have to go through and do a paper ballot recount, we can do that because in most places now, people that work on election integrity issues have, you know, been able to get those laws in place.
Right.
But having said that,
I think Brazil's more secure than we are in the first place.
I would imagine so, yeah.
I think they are.
So, but that doesn't matter, right, Ron? This is about them forming a narrative. And Steve Bannon and company, which I'm going to take you through this today, who are part and parcel to this, they know that. They don't care. He wasn't
on top of it, Steve Bannon?
Yeah, he 100% was. He's been talking on his show,
but he didn't
about Brazil for months.
He didn't just give the straight story?
No.
Really? All right. I'm shocked.
Shocker. All right, let me play. I want to play this one clip, though. This is where they're talking about, though, demanding the source code and the legitimacy of the election itself. So let's play that for a sec. So, you know, what's interesting to me about that is, and I agree, I think it's legitimate to want to not have a private corporation have the source code for voter integrity. Right. I think that's a reasonable demand. But at this point, I think even if they did get that, they would still find a way to say that the election's illegitimate, right? Because that's not their end game. The end game really isn't to get election integrity or the source code. It's just to put their guy in the office. Does that make sense?
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
You know?
So, go ahead.
No. Yeah.
So I want to talk about relationship between Steve Bannon and some of the players in Brazil and how this relates to global fascism, right? So the first guy I want to talk about is Matthew Tiermont. He has been on the war room for a long time. He's a guy that used to work at Project Veritas. He's got a really robust Getter account. You'll see him on other Rumble shows. So he's very much ingrained with all of the neo-fascists here in the United States and the Trump team. So he was on, I want to play this clip. He was on Steve Bannon's show, War Room, about a month ago, talking about Brazil. Now, mind you, this is before, a month before what we're seeing today happened over the weekend. But he was even saying back then that the election is illegitimate, blah, blah, blah. So here he is talking about military aspects of what could happen in Brazil. So I want to play this. This was on Rumble. Starting about 3:51. Colin, can you play that?
Tell me, real quick. Hold on, real quick. The Mariah's thing about was this just a marginal person, or was this is not the big event itself, though, right?
No, this is just everything is leading up to what we are perceiving to be a big event. And, all these things are comprised of a mosaic of granular data points. Yesterday, there was video of a very high elite SWAT team chanting, "Watch out, you bastards, JB is still president." And they had crosses attached to their backs. They looked like something like a 21st century movie depicting the Crusades in Brazil. Just another data point that now police and military men, they're protesting, they're marching, they're being very vocal. Protest outside military headquarters in Brasilia. Chanting, "The Brazilian people authorized President Bolsonaro to using the military." We did late yesterday. Article 142 is not unconstitutional, and Brazil will not be communist, and we have the mechanisms to fight back against a communist incursion. And of course, we talked about the other general citing the historical reference points of 1935, 1954, 1965, other times of sort of high volatility, communist insurgencies, coup attempts in Brazil. So all these things, I think, are leading up to a culminating point. And then Lula crosses a Rubicon yesterday. I think they are so sure. Marias is starting to feel the pressure, but Lula is such in a bubble, thinking, talking to the other communist leaders of South America, Mutual Admiration Society, and he released the names of who he's nominating to replace all the generals in high command. So you've got this overhang of the military could invoke Article 142 and stabilize society, go in and actually take control. And Lula's naming the names of who he's going to replace them with. That is a very hubristic and arrogant act. And if you're a general currently in high command, what are you saying to yourself? Not on my watch. I'm not going to sign my own death warrant. I'm not going to allow my commie sympathizer.
We got a minute to break. Give me a minute on what you anticipate. What should people be looking for, sir, over the weekend?
Another general said load up on cash, food, and gas publicly. The day before yesterday. That's gone viral in Brazil. People are doing that. They're loading up on cash, food, and gas. There is a perception after seeing the military tanks and armored personnel carriers around all over the country and strategic points and chokeholds, the firefights in the favelas with Venezuelan paramilitary groups with Venezuela saying, we're going to go in like Chile, like Peru, and fight for Lula while the websites crashed on the reservist expansion. Yeah. Everybody's trying to get into the reserves and fight. I think that Friday night would be a very interesting moment for something kinetic to occur. I certainly think something is happening.
We'll look forward to having you back on tomorrow. How do people follow you in the interim, sir?
At Matthew Tiermont, MATTHEWTYRMAND, Twitter, Getter, War Room, and the New York Young Republican Gala.
Thank you, brother. Go to the site, New York Young Front. I think you sold out of tickets.
All right. So notice he's talking about, he kind of reverses the conversation. Lula is going to replace this person with his guy, kind of rhetoric, and that's like unacceptable to him.
Yeah, I like how he's making it out like that's such, like,
that's unusual.
Imagine that when a president comes in, they replace the people that the last president had. Can you imagine? You imagine that there might be a president with a different ideology than a previous one, And the reason there might be a new president is because more people picked that new one over the other one. The horror, like, what are you? That's life, dude. Those are elections.
That is life.
That's what
that
happens.
is what happens when you have elections in a democracy every few years. But this is how far, like you said earlier, the over 10 window has moved to the right. These guys want fascism, and they're not going to accept anything but that. You know, Ali Alexander, who is the one of the starters of Stop the Steal movement here in the United States, you know, he came out, you know, we played this video a few months ago, came out and said, if I don't like the way an election turns out, then it's illegitimate. But that's not how this works, right? So these guys all go around saying, I want more freedom, my freedom, civil liberty, yay, we're the party of freedom, don't tread on me. But they're not. I mean, they're just showing us their asses with this stuff. All right, I wanted to play one more Bannon clip because I also think it shows where Bannon was out a month ago on this. So he's been talking about Brazil for months and months on his show. So this is the one from November, Colin.
Look in the streets of Brazil. Look at the great patriots in Brazil that at a lot of danger to themselves have come forward in the streets of Brazil. And quite frankly, as much as I love the Bolsonaros, and Eduardo I think is going to speak tomorrow, and there's no better man on this globe than Eduardo Bolsonaro or his father. In Brazil, it's gone beyond the Bolsonaros. This is the people saying, no, you didn't follow the Constitution. You use these machines, use the judiciary to shut us down in the media, and we're not going to tolerate it. It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. Same in the United States. You know, the people like Kerry Lake are not going to give up, and I use as a warning in the great fight that you guys have in front of you, both for the cultural issues, for the political issues, and the economic issues. Once they start taking and digitizing the elections, once they start going to machines where you can't get paper ballot, you don't have proof of ID, you take it away from the precincts, and they start to centralize it in collection centers, that's all done for one reason. That's to consistently steal elections, because they know they don't have the backing of the people.
So again, we have some of the same talking points, right? Digitizing election centers. And in reality, a lot of the things that we've done in this direction have made our elections sounder. I mean, we've now added laws where there are paper ballots. So even though we have digital elections, if we have to go back and do a recount, which we actually had to do, you know, after the Trump election, we have the ability to do so. And that wasn't necessarily the case back in 2016 in every state. So I wish people would listen to more Greg Palast in the world than they do some of these other folks, somebody that really is working on issues of election integrity, because the way this is coming from the right isn't entirely accurate. And there are problems in the country, but they're not talking about those problems. They're indeed making many of the problems we have with voter suppression worse. But I digress. Ron, did you have any comments on that?
I mean, yeah, it's just the same playbook. Like, it's literally the same thing that happened here. And I mean, I think all these things are connected. Like, we live in a kind of post-truth society, a post-fact society. I think especially here in the United States, I mean, I don't think you're ever going to see a presidential election that goes like I don't want to say uncontested, because but like uncontested to like an extreme level ever again. Like, I just don't think it's going to happen, because there's just so much. And by the way, like, there are some real and valid concerns out there, especially in the United States. Like there are, I mean, it's kind of funny. You bring up Greg Palast, you know, when 2016 happened, we heard about Russia 24/7. Yeah. Meanwhile, you know, a bunch of rolls were purged in places like Detroit, Michigan. Right. You know, that was probably, I mean, that could have been the big difference in that state. I'm not saying I know Hillary would have won it. I have no idea. And, you know, God knows I'm no Hillary Clinton fan. But I'm just saying, like, they purged a ton of people. Greg Palast showed that. That's literally what happened. Nobody.
Yeah, they've been doing it in Georgia. So, and just so people clear what they, right, purging these rolls is something that True the Vote's been doing, right? So these folks have a legitimate right to vote. They're being purged from rolls because they'll say, like, there's one guy named Jose Garcia, and they'll find 200 Jose Garcias, even though this is a very common name. And if they spent any time looking at this, they would realize it was different people, different middle name, different address. They're all legitimate voters, but they all get purged through this challenge. And then in order for them to vote, they have to go through jump through a bunch of loops to get their ability back to vote. So that does affect the outcome of election because not everybody's going to be able to go through these hoops. And they know that, right?
And it's all bullshit. Like you said,
it's completely all bullshit. So when these guys whine when these guys whine about election integrity because they want to install a fascist while doing this sort of activity, it's really messed up, right? All right. Let's get back to Brazil, though. So I wanted to talk about Jason Miller, too, who has also been going on and on about Brazil for many months now. And in fact, we can go back to 2021. I'm going to take you back for a moment in time here to this 2021. You'll remember there were riots in Brazil by the Bolsonaro guys that kind of broke out. And I think some of this has led from where we are from what happened in 2021 today has like direct connections. So I wanted to play a video of Jason Miller on Steve Bannon's show from September of 2021. Let's play this.
So I want to bring in Jason Miller, who's live and been down there with President Bolsonaro and Getter. Give us a political update. What's happening there and what's your feel for what's happening on the ground, Jason?
Well, Steve, great to be with you this evening. I'm glad that you're covering Brazil where we are. Obviously, we launched Getter just 60 days ago, and Brazil is already the second largest country for us by users, approximately about 15%. We have over 250,000 people from the great country of Brazil who've joined the platform to actually embrace their free speech rights. But what I see here, Steve, is so much love and so much enthusiasm for free speech. And they're especially the folks who are the Bolsonaro supporters are being deplatformed, they're being shadow banned, they have the long arm of the law. I mean, it's some pretty nutty stuff. But one of the things that we're always going to stand for, Steve, is free speech, the ability for folks to express their beliefs. And in fact, I had a great conversation with a member of their Congress just the other night, talking about how their writing would be their version of a First Amendment for free speech rights. And I think that's one thing as Americans, too often we take for granted the aspect of free speech. But Steve, they're talking upwards of 500,000 proud patriots who will be showing their solidarity with their country members in the 199th anniversary of their independence tomorrow in Brasilia. I've heard they're expecting potentially 1 million in Sao Paulo, even more, and additional folks joining in Rio. The excitement is here. Steve, let me put it this way. This is like going to the biggest 4th of July party you have ever seen, except 10 times bigger. And it's amazing, just the excitement, energy. I love these people. It's great.
So while he was down there in Brazil, he actually was picked up for undemocratic acts. I want to put his statement up on the screen so people can read this. This afternoon, my traveling party was questioned for 3 hours at the airport in Brasilia after having attended this weekend's CPAC Brazil conference. We were not accused of
Brazil, dude, Jesus.
Yeah, we were.
CPAC's going international. Oh my God.
Yes. When I talk of a global fascist regime, this is what we're talking about. It's not just the United States. We were not accused of any wrongdoing and told only that they wanted to talk. We informed them that we had nothing to say and were eventually released to fly back to the United States. Our goal of sharing free speech around the world continues. Jason Miller, CEO of Getter. So he has also been a former Trump.
So it sounds like he was just questioned and he freaking went nuts.
Right, pretty much.
What is the point of this guy? I mean, first of all, like how many of these things there's that, what's that other one, like Gab or whatever? So there's Gab, what's the difference between those two?
I'd say Gab is worse. Andrew Torba is the CEO.
What do you mean by worse? Like, why do they both exist? What's the fucking point of them? Like I don't get it. Like,
it's a
what's
grift.
The point of them?
It's a free speech grift.
But how, like, are there different people on each of them? Like what?
No, I'd probably say it's the same crew, but I would say more the neo-Nazis are on Gab. If you wanted,
okay. All right. Okay. I mean, I'm just like, what is the point of these?
Like, I mean, you'll literally see people with like swastikas in their handles and whatnot.
On Gab.
Yeah.
So Getter is the more incognito.
Yeah,
one,
maybe
that's like,
there's somebody that might have a better opinion on that than I do, but yeah, that's kind of how it strikes me.
All right, I mean, because I honestly don't like. I'm not on either one, so I don't. I'm just like, why do these things
freaking
exist? And I'm not like I don't know anything about. Well, I know just the basics and from like stuff that you've researched and whatnot. But it's just like, how many of these freaking things do you need? Like what? I mean, and this is coming from a guy who's on Twitter and Mastodon and Instagram, and you know, I mean, we're all on a bunch of things, but he's like, we are committed to free speech. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, you know what? I'm so tired of people using that as a buzzword when they think free
annoying.
Speech.
They don't know what free speech is. Yeah,
they don't know what free speech is. I love free speech too, but you know what? I love it so much that I actually read the frickin' laws. I understand how free speech works. I understand what the rules are, and I understand different countries have different laws around free speech.
That's right.
Like, I understand that too. I understand that the laws in the United States are different than other countries. I can't say which is the best and which isn't. I really don't know, but I know that I think our free speech laws are pretty freaking good.
Ours are pretty robust.
I know what they are. I know what they freaking are. I mean, I can't name all 9 things off the top of my head, but I can name the gist of it, where it's just like, well, this is what you can't do. This is how this works. You know, I don't think that like, oh, I'm going to go, if somebody doesn't want to put me in a newspaper, my free speech laws are being, no, that's not how it freaking works. If somebody doesn't want to advertise on my podcast, they're violating my free, no, that's not how it works. That's not what it is. Like,
the advertiser one is the funny one to me. It's like,
that's the funniest one. That is the funniest one.
I was like, I'm going to run with that.
I'm going to run with that. I'm going to email every advertiser in the country and be like, would you like to advertise on my podcast? And when they say no, I'd be like, please stop violating my free speech rights. You'll hear from my attorney.
Right.
I mean, it's I'm so
it's
tired.
Asinine. No, they just want to be able to use hate speech any way they want and not have any criticism for what they say. That's basically
when they just want an echo chamber, right? Like
100%.
Like a lot of people, they're just like, oh, my
chamber.
free speech rights were violated. Like, it's like, oh, was it that, or was it just you posted a bunch of racist shit
and
a bunch of people said, hey, we don't appreciate your racist shit, which by the way, you know what that is? Free speech. That's free speech. That's what that is. So you want a safe space for your racist shit. Oh, you're so persecuted. Like, what the hell? So he's just going on about these buzzwords that someone asked him questions at an airport and he freaks out. Like, it's like, why is this person? So anyway.
Why? All right. So then this morning we had some breaking news. I'm not sure that we have an update on this yet, but the federal deputy Erica Hilton has officially submitted a request to the foreign minister to initiate the extradition of Jair Bolsonaro from the United States. Now, Bolsonaro is in Florida and has been.
He has a stomach ache.
But he's also in the hospital, apparently, according to his wife.
Yes, because he has a stomach ache. Yes. Now here's the thing. I will say so. All right, so they ordered that they started the wheels going on the extradition of him.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, oh, he has a stomach ache and he's in the hospital. Now, I would say, man, I really smell bullshit there. But Tina, here's the thing. He did go to KFC and he's not from the United States. So I know. I feel like it might be kind of legit. I
how
feel
do you
like
know
maybe
he went to KFC.
Wasn't he talking about it? He went to KFC or he went to somewhere terrible. He's been eating American food is my point. So I think that maybe 2 things are true at the same time here. He might legit be having some stomach issues. Politics aside, dude's from Brazil. He's eating our American shit. Stomach issues may be legit. I'm just saying.
All right. Okay. That's funny. All right.
But we'll see.
So that is what's going on with that situation. I think there's more to come, obviously, but I really wanted to just sort of loosely discuss the connections between the fascists here in the United States and abroad, because they do coordinate with each other. They do talk. A lot of the organizing that happens online in like Telegram chat rooms, Gab, whatnot.
Not on Gitter though. Is Gitter?
Gitter's just not as big of a deal.
Gitter's not for planning. Is that the thing? Is it? Which one's the biggest one?
Telegram would be for planning because, or Signal, because you can have, DM rooms that are private where everybody else can't see them. And then you can also associate those private D rooms with public chat rooms where you can put the public stuff. So oftentimes, and plus they don't really regulate Telegram in the same way. There's no advertisers on there in the same way you would have with like Twitter per se. So there's no concern for brand safety. They don't care if people get bullied, right? So Telegram's kind of the Wild West of social media platforms.
So what's bigger? Is Gitter the smallest of the
I actually don't know.
You don't know?
I would think yes.
I just don't.
I don't have the actual data on that, but I'd say the preferable one though is Telegram.
All right. Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, yeah. I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, So is it over now? Like, is it pretty much like has it fizzled out now?
Yeah,
that's like all this
that
footage
part
has been going on over the past day and a half, right?
Yeah. I think we've had the buildup and the shutdown of that. I know they've started to make some arrests and whatnot.
Because they were making arrests prior. Like they were having to make pre-arrests because people were planning stuff. Like I mean, someone had like a bunch of weapons in their house and stuff like that. I mean, so it's like they were making pre-arrests. But I guess the January 6th reenactment happened anyway.
Yeah. January 6th reenactment.
Well, yeah. I mean, they based it. I mean, they literally had similar garb.
No, I know.
I
know. The shaman thing. I hadn't seen that. That's wild.
It is. I mean, it's. Elections happen, and sometimes your preferred candidate doesn't win, and that's just how it goes. And if you have fake elections like we have in the United States, like you have to just try to navigate it the best you can, because there's always going to be shady things that happen. But that doesn't mean you can just make up the whole thing being not real if you don't have any evidence supporting that. You can't just be like, oh, well, it's not, I'm not going to accept the election results if my person doesn't win. Well, based on what? Well, based on all this
tread on me
that happens all the time. Well, yeah, but you can't just start with that conclusion. That's not how it works. Like, you don't get to do that.
But that's where we're
at. You have to have evidence of things.
They don't want evidence. And they know that there's no evidence. They don't care. They're trying to, the people that are on the propaganda side, the media side, like, the Steve Bannons, they know that Trump lost the election. They know that. That's not the point, right? The point is they want to get their politics forwarded in any way they possibly can. And even if that means overturning our democracy, so to speak. So that's where we're at, and it's a global problem. It's not just here in the United States, and I don't think I think we're going to see more of this in 2024.
Oh, hell yeah. We're going to see it every single president. I think we're going to see it indefinitely as far as presidential elections go. We'll see it in 2024. If we do one in 2028, we'll see it then. Until either Musk or Bezos just gets appointed emperor, I think we'll see it. And then after that, it's like, well, the mask is completely off. We got an emperor now. But until then, which I think could be as early as 28. Until then, though.
Until then, but still, I think part and parcel to this conversation is the erosion of public trust in our entities, right? Not just Congress, but also SCOTUS. And whatnot. Yeah. This is contributing to the problem, right? I mean, all of these institutions need public buy-in in order to function properly. And
here's the rub, though: they don't deserve public trust.
I don't disagree with you. I think SCOTUS has shown itself to be totally illegitimate.
I mean, the Supreme Court. There's no reason for it to exist. It is a freaking train wreck. It is a scam. It is. The Supreme Court is to the law what pizza is to a vegetable. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it's a shame because, like, I'm not against the idea of high functioning federal courts, but that's not what we have with the Supreme Court.
Not at this point.
Not that.
It's
nowhere
been very
close.
Extremely politicized in a bad way. I think we have multiple justices that are not at a good should not be there serving. They're not up to the job. So no, I think what we're seeing here is this decline of public institutions for this reason, and this is going along with rabid income inequality. So it's the perfect storm for fascism to be breeding in, and that's what's happening.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I can still hear your rain.
I know it's rain.
Speaking of the perfect storm, Tina is in a tent. Smash the like button and leave a super chat so we can get Tina multiple tents with better roofs, so that when it's raining in LA and the internet is weird and Tina's like, I need to do the tent today.
Well, it's because it's the flat button. It's the flat Spanish style roof is what you can hear rain more on.
No, you're in a tent. I will accept no other explanation. You're in a tent. Tina has multiple tents in her yard. They each have Wi-Fi hotspots. And when it rains, she has to pick the best one. It's very labor intensive. So please do leave a super chat.
Okay. All right.
So Brazil, I guess we'll see how all that unfolds.
Yeah. Let's, should we do AOC next or the nurses?
Let's do the nurses next.
Let's do the nurses. 7,000 nurses. 7,000 nurses are on strike for 2 New York City hospitals, asking for, more of the same, better pay, better working conditions. I think a big issue with nurses is they need more staffing. Too many patients, not enough nurses. They're overworked. And also there's a danger there. If there's not enough staffing, the likelihood of something happening wrong, going wrong is higher, especially when you're working long hours in hospitals.
I think that's pretty much, this is where we are as a society. Hey, is it a bad idea to have our hospitals understaffed? Gee, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's a bad idea?
I think it's a very bad idea.
It's so ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
And it's been ridiculous for the past couple years. Like and it goes beyond, nurses and doctors. Of course, they're on the list, but basically all of our essential workers, how we just kind of didn't get them the support they need, didn't get them better rotations, didn't do what we needed to do to keep people safe. And now, so many people have literally left the field.
Right.
So a lot of nurses, they're not nurses anymore because it freaking broke them. And pretty much everyone is like, I need a sabbatical. I need something. Now, part of that is just a public health crisis is amidst us, obviously. But it's more than that. It's also that we didn't do diddly poo to prepare for said public health crisis or to mitigate it or to, handle it properly. We just basically said, hey, nurses, work to the bone. Who cares about your safety? And I mean, it's just a disaster.
Yeah. So I think we have Jon Farina was there covering the start of the strike this morning. Let's play some of that video footage.
Nurses will never trade in our patients for money. What we are here is for safe staffing, is for Mount Sinai to provide ratios to the contract and staffing enforcement.
Is it accurate to say that you walked away from the table at 1 a.m.? Is it accurate to say that the nurses walked away from the table at 1 a.m.?
It's accurate to say that we were not getting anywhere at 1 a.m. We were making some progress, but we didn't make a lot of progress. And the nurses here are asking for Mount Sinai to be accountable.
And let me say, first and foremost, today being a big healthcare day from City Hall to here at Mount Sinai, that conversation starts and ends with our workers, with our nurses on the front lines, sacrificing every single day. And let me tell you, in addition to having nurses in my own family, I represent the district that was the epicenter of the pandemic, with Elmhurst Hospital just a few blocks away. I know how our nurses showed up every single day.
They're abusing the care that they have for these patients, knowing that they don't want to do anything to harm their patients. And I know that. I want to shout out my sister Janine Williams, who's a nursing practitioner at Morningside.
Up on the postpartum floors, it's 1 to 3 couplets. So that's baby and mom, so essentially 1 to 6. There's been times where I've had 1 to 6 couplets, and on the labor floor, I've been stretched with 2 to 3 patients, where we have 2 patients delivering, and there's really nowhere to go. Unfortunately, the emergency department and the labor and delivery floor are one of the only places in a hospital that you can't control the influx of what comes in. So we just never know what's going to happen on those floors.
So we'll see where that's going. So that started this morning. So there's 3 locations in the Bronx where they're on strike, and there's a 4th that will be at 7 p.m. in Manhattan tonight. So we'll see where that goes.
And once again, I mean, here's another industry of people being exploited. The stuff they're asking for, they shouldn't have to ask for. Yeah. Hey, have us reasonably staffed so we can stay safe, especially when you're a freaking nurse. when you're in the medical field, have adequate staffing issues. You don't want a nurse to be overworked. You don't want a nurse to be tired. You want a nurse to be sharp and to be like, you know, like if they don't sanitize their hands properly at any given moment, they could kill somebody, for crying out loud.
Or too much of the wrong medication. There's a million things that can go wrong if you're not alert. So.
It's a very high pressure job. Very, very much so. You know, and it's just again, like they're just like, have us staffed properly, give us the wages we deserve. It's like these are things they shouldn't have to ask for. Just like people work in a warehouse shouldn't have to ask for proper safety equipment, proper sanitary equipment during a pandemic, no less. Like these are all things. Give us decent, you know, give us a decent retirement. Give us a reasonable class size. Whatever. The list goes on and on of these things that no one should need to ask for. But because this is the slow boil, folks, this is our society crumbling. Because it's been a slow boil for 40 freaking years now. And we're at the end. Like this is what 40 years of Reaganism gets you. And by the way, it's 40 years and counting. It's not like we're out of it now. We're still in it. We just elected
Labor's but Labor's finally awaking again. And wildly, it costs the hospitals more money to staff up with what they call travel nurses, right? These are emergency nurses that you can bring into the hospital for, various reasons. Striking could be one of them. But these nurses are paid more money. They have to go through a staffing agency. So, and by law, they have to have a certain amount of nurses present in that hospital, and they have patients still. So, in the short term, this is actually going to cost the hospitals more money if they had agreed to more of these conditions that were being requested. But again, they can't see that viewpoint, right? They have such a myopic viewpoint of the world.
Yeah, and it's a hospital. like it's a hospital doing this. I mean, it's. I hope they get everything they want and then some. And it's
they're reasonable requests, in my opinion. You know, a lot of times when you see people going on strike and then you go and to see what the demands were and that the employers wouldn't make them, you're like,
yeah, all the time. I've never seen a strike in recent years where that hasn't been the case. Yeah. Every single strike, it's just like they shouldn't even have to ask for this. Yeah. They deserve way more than what they're asking for every single time. Whether it was from John Deere to Kellogg's, everything in between. Hey, we don't want to have to work 7 days in a row. Hey, we work on a railroad. We want to have a properly staffed train. We don't want to be on call 80 hours a freaking week. We don't want to be on our own during our off time. I mean, it's like a lot of this stuff, you look at it and you're like, holy cow, that was going on?
Yeah, it's
wow.
Shocking.
That's happening?
So much about the railroad strike was shocking to me, the conditions that these guys are under all the time. And maybe that's part and parcel to the problem. Maybe if these issues had more attention given to them by the media before the strike happens, more of the American public would be aware. You know, the court of public opinion would be like, yeah, why are we doing this to begin with? I don't know. I just think labor's awakening in the country. I think more people are joining that movement, understanding why union workers are going on strike, wanting to create unions. Amazon and Starbucks and whatnot, Trader Joe's now all forming unions for the first time is fantastic news, I think, for the working class across the board. And stronger unions, existing unions, that needs to happen too. So we're seeing that happen.
Hey, every yin has its yang, right? And that's sort of like what's going on here. It's like, yeah, we are in this hyper, like, neo-fascistic time. The other side of it is labor is rising up more so than we've seen in generations, really. And it is kind of like the glimmer of hope that we have. And folks, we bring this type of content to you and we're able to do it because there are boots on the ground. Jon Farina was on the ground at this case, but here at Status Coup, we like to cover labor. And this is why we like to cover labor. We realize how freaking important it is. And these are things the corporate media tries to downplay these stories. Why? Because the corporate media is anti-labor. They are against labor. They are for the advertisers and their owners are very powerful corporate entities. So they try to downplay labor issues. They try to minimize it, marginalize it, and then trivialize it. That's the cycle that they go in. Todd Gitlin made that graph years ago. So to really get the story about labor, you got to turn to independent outlets like this. And to give you those stories, we need boots on the ground. So if you are able, please become a member. StatusCoup.com/join. For $5 a month, you become a member, and you are funding independent journalism. There's members calls. There's all kinds of fun stuff. And again, you are funding independent journalism. It takes a lot of resources to send boots on the ground. And then we take that footage and we compile it into stories and we broadcast it from the studios and elsewhere. That takes a lot of resources. So please, if you are able, StatusCoup.com/join. And Tina needs more tents, folks. The internet gets weird when it rains. StatusCoup.com/join.
Tense. All right, AOC. Let's talk about AOC. Let's.
Yeah.
This was kind of a strange word salad to me, watching some of this. I think, obviously it relates back to what's going on with the Republican Party trying to elect Speaker of the House and having a real problem doing that, apparently. I mean, how many rounds have we gone now?
I think it's 15, right? And it's
a lot.
Yeah. Well, I think
and we'll be back at it again on Wednesday, so who knows?
And it's not just that; it's also, I think, also this is still leftover too from the railroad strike. I mean, I think this is also leftover from the railroad strike. There's just a lot of people now who are being vocal, where it's become so apparent that the squad is just not doing what they were elected to do. They're just not freaking doing it. And there's no way you can beat around that anymore. I mean, they didn't stand in solidarity with the rail workers. I know people are they're like, oh, well, technically the union leadership was talking to them. But that is like, first of all, the union workers were not for that at all. So they could have listened to the workers, first of all. Second of all, that's a bunch of nonsense. That makes no sense. Oh, that the people who wanted to go on strike wanted their elected officials to vote against them being able to strike. They knew what was going to happen with the sick time. So no, that's freaking nonsense. There is no excuse. And also there was no excuse for them not to demand a vote on Medicare for all from Nancy Pelosi, and not to make any other demands. I mean, people were like, well, they should demand other stuff. Well, they should demand all of it. They should have demanded all of it to vote for Nancy Pelosi. They should have said, we're not going to vote for you unless you meet this list of demands, and this is our list of demands. And they should have put a bunch of stuff on it. Instead, they did absolutely nothing. They asked for nothing. So now the Freedom Caucus, or whatever they're called, they're getting these. I think this was mostly theater, because a bunch of their concessions, their quote unquote concessions, are mostly austerity. Republicans love austerity anyway. Hell, Democrats love austerity. Right. So you think that wasn't going to be something that happened anyway? Of course it was going to be. Those were their concessions, in their little theater act.
Yeah, a lot of it's theater. I feel also like
most of it is. I think maybe there's a little minute, but for the most part, that's all it is. This is stuff Republicans love to do anyway.
Right.
You think they were going to say no to austerity? Of course they will.
No, of course not.
Some of these
just
people,
silly.
like, oh, they might do. They're going to cut back on defense. That sounds great, but guess what? There's no guarantee that will happen. It's just general austerity. So, maybe there's a slim chance. I would say it's about 1%, if I'm being honest. There's a slim chance that they could go after something like defense. You think the Pentagon's going to let that happen? No. And do you think the Republicans are going to stand up to the Pentagon?
There's no chance of that.
No,
was that even being floated? There's no chance of that. Both parties are part and parcel to that.
No, I know. It was something people were grumbling, but again, it was kind of just like, I mean, I guess technically that's not impossible, but how likely frickin' is that?
Very
not
unlikely.
Very.
I mean, let's look at does everybody know who the IDC was in New York? I mean, thank God they've gone by the wayside. But when the Democratic Party aligns with Republicans in some sort of power sharing agreement or power sharing arrangement, the things that come out of that are never progressive, right? If anything, the progressive issues get sidelined time and time again, right? The IDC was is a good case study in this. If anybody wants to look into them a little bit more, you can. But basically, you would have, progressive New York senators that would be saying on their websites, yes, I'm for universal health care. Yes, I'm for a higher minimum wage. Yes, I'm for the Green New Deal, whatever these issues are. And then every time some progressive legislation would try to get through the state Senate, it wouldn't go anywhere. It would die in committee. It would die in the committee. And part and parcel to that was the IDC, right? So the Democrats that participated in that power sharing agreement, they're like, okay, we'll just bring it to the committee and it'll just sit there and it will die. It will never get to the floor for a vote. So it's one thing to say on your website, to say when you're on the campaign trail, to say when you're door knocking, these are the issues I support, this is what I'm going to fight for. But then when you get down to the wire and you're there and this is what you're doing instead, you're letting bills die in committee and whatnot, after a while, the American public doesn't buy it anymore. They look at you as the senator that cried wolf. So I think we're seeing some of the same things happen in Congress. And so when they were floating this idea last week of the Democrats creating some sort of power sharing agreement with the Republican Party because of this Kevin McCarthy problem, I was just eye rolling. I was like, yeah, that's not.
Yeah, it went nowhere.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. A, it's just not. The Republicans aren't going to agree to it. But B, even if it did, how is this a win?
So I think people are really starting to get frustrated with time and time again. And this is just another for instance of it where you see, you see the Freedom Caucus withholding their votes and the squad wouldn't do this. And every single time on every single bill, on every single policy, there's always just enough that we lose. There's always just enough of a split that we lose. And I think people are starting to say, hey, this is ridiculous. What's going on here? And so here's what AOC had to say about this. Let's go to some of the Instagram stuff.
I see some people say, Dems should negotiate to get concessions. We do all the time. But what we don't do is bring them publicly in order to empower not just Republicans, but the fascist flank of the Republican Party. And ironically, a lot of the concessions that Kevin McCarthy, in nature, they're not the same ones, of course, but the nature of some of these concessions actually do overlap with some of the concessions that have been the subject of private negotiations on the Democratic side. We have also negotiated for certain budgetary we have negotiated for certain budgetary rules. We've negotiated there have been negotiations around committees, budgetary rules, and very similar kind of scopes and areas. But we do that prior to getting to the floor vote. Not only that, but when people say Dems should do this, there's also a very critical question of just basic math. The House Freedom Caucus comprises of we see the holdouts here comprised of 21 members. That is a huge faction of your party to go into a vote day without negotiating without satisfying. And for Republicans for Kevin McCarthy to go into a speakership vote while knowing that he does not have 21 people is almost unthinkable. So there's just the basic math of the issue. Democrats do not have a flank of 21 that would do that. Now, we do have groups of 10, 20, 30 that do negotiate for things, but we do it before the actual floor vote. Now, so there's...
All right, there's so many things here
There's so many things. So first of all, what did they get then? What did she's saying? We negotiate privately. Okay, what did you get? Well, let's start with Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, exactly.
Nancy, what did you get? Fill me in. If something happened privately, what did y'all get?
Nothing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing, Rod, that kills me about this. So she's basically criticizing the Freedom Caucus for withholding their votes. That's basically what she's saying there. That's a big chunk of people to go to the floor and not know they're going to be on your side. Well, isn't that the fucking point? That's why they're doing what they're doing. They know if they withhold their vote, that gives them power. That is the point.
Yeah, and the whole thing where she's like, it's math. They have like numbers. Look, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, which is a joke. The only thing you need to do to join the Progressive Caucus is have progressive car insurance. It's a freaking joke. But nonetheless, they're selling us this joke. So guess what? The Congressional Progressive Caucus has like over 100 people. So that's a big flank. If they were actually what they say they are, I mean, it's a freaking. I think like
none of them are willing to withhold votes to get what they want, and
none of them are even progressive. But like,
but even the ones that are, Ron, there are some in there that are progressive. They're legitimately are, but for them to say, you think none of them are progressive? None of them?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Not a single one?
No.
All right, that'll be a conversation for another day too. My point is this: they're not willing to do what the Freedom Caucus is willing to do, and that's part and parcel to the problem. I think the folks that voted for them want them to do that. They want them to withhold votes unless they get some concessions. Saying that we're negotiating behind the wall before we get to the floor, you just don't know about it, isn't going to cut it at this point. That means at some point you conceded to whatever the party demands were, which weren't progressive, and that it comes across as you didn't fight for anything, which you probably didn't, let's be honest. We saw it in California when it came to our universal health care bill. They pulled the vote from going to the floor prior to that day because they said they didn't have the votes, right? So that's what they were doing. They were negotiating behind
and then when you ask for names,
they won't give them to you. But here's the thing. The difference is this. When they take it to the floor, and if somebody was actually willing to go to the mat on this and did that, the voting public would see quite clearly who was behind the bill and who wasn't. And I think that is very important information for voters to have.
That's why we wanted the vote on Medicare for all. I mean, that's why they were like, let's get the vote on Medicare for all. No one thought it was going to win. Of course it wasn't. But like, you wanted to see like, okay, let's see where the cards lay. Because there was a bunch of people that when Trump was in office and they knew there was no chance of Medicare for all happening, not that there's a chance now, but, like with a Republican in the White House, there's no chance at all. Like they were like, oh, yeah, I'm for it. Now Joe Biden's in the White House. He's against Medicare for all, but it's going to make him look bad if he vetoes it. So let's see who's really for it. Let's see how it really freaking lines up.
But this is what they're doing. I mean, in the IDC, it was another example of that. We just talked about that. This is what they do, right? This gives them the cover to say, I'm a progressive. I believe in Medicare for all. I believe in the Green New Deal. I believe in raising the minimum wage. These are my values. This is why you should vote for me. It allows them to continue to keep doing that without ever having to make any movements in that direction whatsoever, right? Because nobody's ever going to know. This is the political party that the Democrats engage in constantly, the political theater that they engage in constantly. And this is why voters don't trust the party anymore and haven't for many years now. For many years now that people...
The reason that this heat is going on AOC and the squad
is because they said the opposite when they ran for office. They were going to fight. That's right. We're going to fight for you. We're going to, put our foot down.
And they're going to cause a ruckus.
We're going to cause a ruckus. And that's
like
not what's
happening. From causing a ruckus to celebrating the, quote, unity in your party. It's like, well, wait a second. You were supposed to cause the good trouble. You were supposed to cause the ruckus in the party. And you're not doing that. And again, like, she's using all the like, well, look at the numbers. It's like, yeah, but if you guys don't act as a block, you're not using the numbers you do have. We get it. There's only 6 of you. But if you guys acted as a block every single time, there'd be concessions. And I'm one of these people too. I don't care. I really care so little. And by so little, I mean not at all. I don't care about the aesthetic stuff. I just don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about tweets or Instagram. I really don't care. And if like all the aesthetic stuff was like friendly with your colleagues, but we were getting stuff done politically, I wouldn't care. If we were getting concessions and they were acting as a block and they were holding down the line and they were like getting these wins,
or at least trying to get them. Right now, it appears they're not even trying to get them. You know what I'm saying?
I wouldn't care. You can call Nancy Pelosi Mama Bear until you're blue, no matter who in the face. I don't care. I don't care if we're getting those wins. The fact that we're not every single time we lose by just enough. And if they would act as a block, it could have gone differently. You know, I mean, so it's like, sometimes people who won't criticize the squad, they're like, well, there's only 6 of them. What do you ask them? It's just like everything we're asking is within their power. We're not asking them to do anything outside of their power. I don't think that AOC can ride a dragon and shoot healthcare down in the form of lightning bolts. I'm not asking her to do that. I'm asking the squad to work as a block, something they continue to refuse to do, and now they're freaking celebrating it. And she went from
that's exactly it.
There's another clip in here where she's celebrating the diversity of the Democratic Party, quote unquote,
in a way that didn't make any sense. We need to play some of this. This was some serious word salad.
Colin,
that was the 4-minute one.
Okay, we're not listening to all of it, but we'll play part of it. We're not going to listen to the whole thing, but play the whole unity one. I think it might have been 2 or 3. The 4th one was just a minute, so it's either 2 or 3. But she talks about unity, or not unity. She talks
diversity.
About the
it's the 3rd one. It's 3rd clip. It's
all right. So 3rd
long.
clip, Colin. Just go ahead and start that, and we'll
and secondly, that also speaks to the Republican base. The Republican base is very different than the Democratic base, in nature, in issue, in parallel, etc. The Democratic Party is a very diverse party, whether people like that or not just in terms of identity. We are very diverse in terms of identity, but we're also diverse in terms of ideology. We're diverse in terms of age, all of those things. And that diversity means that our Democratic base is very diverse in its interests as well. And the Democratic base would not sustain this kind of action.
So she went from, and this is so, it's almost as if she's following a DNC guidebook on how to break down these issues for voters who are not happy. Because she went from, a couple years ago, AOC was saying things like Joe Biden and I shouldn't even be in the same political party. By the way, she's right.
And
she's
she's
saying things like there is no left party in the United States. The Democratic Party is not a left party.
Yeah, I
and
agree
now
with that.
she's saying it's like she's rebranding that now via DNC handbook and using the whole we're a wide tent, we're a big tent. Which, by the way, that's the opposite of what a political party should frickin' be. Yeah, a political party is supposed to have a frame and an ideological framework that they think will make better laws and rules for a society. And you know who they negotiate with? Other frickin' political parties.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
and they form a coalition.
And they form coalitions. I'm not saying they need to be 100% monolithic in everything. Of course not. But you shouldn't be some freaking wide.
Issues,
like you shouldn't be like, oh, I think everyone should have health care. Oh, I'm not so sure. Well, we're a wide
then you
tent.
don't belong. Yeah,
That's
you don't belong
bullshit.
in the same party. Then I agree. It doesn't make any sense.
That's bullshit. And so now she's celebrating this when before she knew it was a problem. And this is why people are really freaking fed up. This is why people are fed up. And, you know, it's not, I mean, I'm sorry. I know that people, they don't want to admit that the squad is really letting us down because it's like, well, they're the only people who are nice to us. It's like, look, you got to call something what it is. You can't sugarcoat what's going on here. And at the end of the day, it's way easier for them to play it the company way. It's way easier for them career-wise, and that's what's happening. So, I mean...
I think to an extent it is. I think
how is it not?
I
Isn't an
think
example
the
of where it's
fear...
not?
No, I'm saying that I think the fear of not having any power is really a powerful thing to hold over all of these.
We don't have any power, though. We have no power.
Well, but you're never going to have power compared to like the corporate Dems. But what little power you do have is in, I think, withholding your vote or in demanding certain concessions for that vote. And I think the optics are now that doesn't happen whatsoever, which is problematic. I think her voters would prefer, and I think this is true of any of the squad members, I think they would prefer to like at least see the battle happen, even if you lose, because then they know at least somebody's fighting for them. But right now, what they hear is somebody saying, we negotiated behind closed doors. And obviously the jaded response, the cynical response to that, and people are cynical for a very good reason, is, yeah, sure you did. Whatever, you're just as bad as everybody else in Congress. You're a sellout. That should be obvious to her that's what would happen, right? That's of course that's what's going to happen. So if her and her friends behaved like the Freedom Caucus, who she's now criticizing, then there might be concessions, right? The fact that we are entering, 15 rounds of voting here is because they are withholding their votes because they want something for them. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I don't agree, obviously, with these far-right politicians. I don't hold the same politics that they do, but I at least understand that that's a valid tactic to use if you want to gain power. So the fact, I guess, so what I'm getting at is the fact is that she's not willing to, AOC is not willing to, a lot of these young progressives aren't willing to do the same thing, and I think that is the problem right there. That is the problem. So even if she is trying to negotiate behind closed doors, nobody believes her.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe her. I mean, I'll straight up say, I mean, I'm not in the room, but I don't believe her. I don't, because.
But you see what I'm saying? You would think that they would at least understand that. Like, how does she not see that clear as day? So instead of criticizing the Freedom Caucus in the way she just did, she should maybe embrace their tactics and try them out and see what that gets her as a progressive congressperson.
Of course, but this is nothing she doesn't know. I mean, like, of course she knows that. I mean, I think it's just.
You don't think it's out of like, I've been beaten down because I'm young and I'm fearful and they have power over me a little bit, or no? I'm curious to know your thoughts on that. Like, some people would argue that a lot of these young Congress folks are just.
I'm sorry. When you are a member of Congress, and by the way, these are Ro Khanna's words. These are not Ron Placone's words. These are Ro Khanna's words. When you are a member of Congress, you are in the 1% of the 1% as far as how powerful you are. Yeah. You are one of the most powerful people in the world. That's just a fact. That's a fact. And AOC is a congressperson, and look, she's a very, very instrumental figure in our politics. I think she could very well be president someday. You know what? I think she totally could. Absolutely. You don't think she could?
See it. Nope.
AOC. I think she definitely could become president someday. Abso-frickin-lutely. Who could? Who else could?
I don't see it.
You don't think AOC could ever be president? One of the most popular politicians in the country. You don't think? Okay. I think she totally could. And I hope that if she ever is, she's not. I hope she is what we wanted Bernie Sanders to be as president. Should he have been able to be president?
She's not even close to Bernie. I mean, she has nowhere near the strength necessary to be even a third of what Bernie is, in my opinion. I don't see it.
She's also.
I think she's way too much of a pushover.
She's also been in the game 50 years less than he has.
Fair, but I mean, I think
career
intuitively,
has been 50 years shorter than
but Bernie was stronger at his young ages than she is now, way stronger. I think Bernie doesn't care as much about what the Democratic Party thinks of him.
You think that when Bernie was her age, I think he wasn't even mayor yet.
No, he wasn't. I'm saying in his younger years that when he was an early politician. I don't see it. I don't see it. I'm saying he's always been sort of a fighter.
We'll see. I mean, has. I mean, I don't disagree, but what I'm saying is AOC has a lot of power. Would you agree that AOC has power?
No, I don't think.
You don't think she has any power?
She's a member of power.
She's a member of
her power.
Well,
she should have more power.
I agree with that, but
she has power in the sense that she's in an elite group of being in Congress. In that sense, yes, but I don't think she's utilizing any power. I think she's a pawn in a game. Well, I think if she really wanted to grasp onto her power, if Rashida Tlaib or any of these others wanted to do that, it would start with them being willing to withhold their vote from Mama Bear. They would have to be willing to do that. So right now, I don't see it.
Okay. I mean, I think that she is one of the more prominent figures in American politics. That comes along.
I don't see that.
You don't. You don't. Who's a bigger figure in American politics? I mean, she's among them. I mean, seriously, I'm curious. Like, who?
Yeah, I feel you. I'd say right now there's a lack of leadership on the left side, in my opinion. I don't think there's a deep bench as far as up and coming leaders. I think there's a real need for that right now on the left side of things. The right side is just in disarray, but there are still stronger characters that are willing to take up the mantle for the folks that, you know, hold those ideals. I don't think she's very popular. I think the reason people call her as part of the fraud squad is indicative of that.
I mean, that might be reflexive of, you know, I mean, a bubble, because I think that I don't think a ton of regular people say stuff like fraud squad. Okay. I really don't. I mean, I think a lot of the general public, like, they really like her. They see her as a figurehead. I mean,
I don't see it, but okay.
All right.
I mean, I guess I can see partially that.
I asked you to name a more popular one. You weren't able to.
I don't think there are popular politicians at this point. I think people hate politicians in general.
I think we have a bizarre celebrity worship of politicians.
You do?
I completely disagree. We have people who dress up as a judge for Halloween. And I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to disrespect the dead here. You know, do you realize how bizarre that is in the world? Like, do you realize how?
Who are you talking about? Dress up like who?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oh, I have never seen anybody dressed up by that. Okay, but she's a judge, not a politician. Well, I think she's more of a feminist icon.
I said judge.
Yeah.
Do you realize how bizarre that is to the rest of the world? Especially since she wasn't really.
But she makes more sense to me.
She's incredibly bizarre. It is so bizarre compared to the rest of the world.
For her generation, she's like a feminist icon. I think that's what that's about. Not necessarily per se only because she served as a SCOTUS judge, but for women of her age, like, she was a feminist icon. I mean, notorious RGB.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's still very bizarre. I mean, show me another society where they have these judges who are, quote, feminist icons for being moderates. I mean, it's something.
I wouldn't call her a moderate. I mean, I think when you're a judge, especially on SCOTUS, you should not be importing your personal opinion. You should be judging things based on law.
But all of them do, and that's why she was famous in the first place. All of them do that, though, and that's why she was famous in the first place.
And I think it's way worse now than it's ever been. I think before there was a certain level of people respecting the magnitude of the position once they got into it. So, which is why you would used to see, at least not so much now, but we used to be able to see judges crossing over party lines, so to speak, if that, you know, if you were nominated by Reagan or somebody.
There should be party lines, though. I mean, that's the thing. It's like,
okay, but there is always going to
now,
be. People have their political biases, but my thing is this: if you can step into that position and still hold yourself to a higher standard as far as what the magnitude of that job is, that's okay. We can work with that, right? But I think this new round of nominations that we've seen, the last
how many do you think other cycles, do you think other politicians have like just like Instagram streams that people love and stuff like that? Like do you think like over in the UK, like, did Boris Johnson have a popular podcast?
Yes.
He did? What was it?
Not a podcast, but yeah, but he has.
What was his Instagram stream?
What was an Instagram, dude? This happens everywhere. What are you talking about?
Did he stream a bunch? Did he have does Justin Trudeau have like a YouTube series? I just think we have a bizarre culture
I don't think
like
it's
celebrity worship around. I do think it's worse here than other places. I really do. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't. My point is that I think that they like AOC and the squad, either they don't realize the power that they have, which I don't know what more they need to see it, or like if they do realize it, they just know it's easier to just not really rock the boat at all. And that's what
or
this
they're
comes
afraid
down to.
I mean, I think they can be easily intimidated too. I mean, I could be wrong there, but
well, then they shouldn't have applied for the gig. I'm sorry. Like I can't sugarcoat this. I can't sugarcoat this. There's a million reasons why I don't run for office, you know? and if one of the reasons that if you're thinking about running for office and you want to run on bringing the ruckus and you want to run on confronting your own party and you're scared to do it, don't frickin' run. Because guess what? A lot of people gave money to help make that a reality. A lot of people put a lot of their resources and man hours and all kinds of things that these are poor, struggling people, and they elected you to do a certain thing. So if you were too scared to ever do it, then you really duped a lot of people. Like I can't sugarcoat this.
No, I don't disagree with that, but I think some people, once in that situation, might all of a sudden feel intimidated when they didn't before. Also, I got to say this: part and parcel to the conversation is part and parcel to the conversation. Also, is they are now a representative for a big swath of people, and they should be listening to all of those people in their district, whether they agree with them or not. So, oftentimes they will get email messages from certain constituents on the regular, and they listen to those. More people should put pressure on their representatives. I mean, if you don't say anything and they don't hear from you, they won't make judgments based on what you think, because they don't know. They're going to make judgments based on the predominant amount of emails that they get, which is why sometimes email campaigns are very effective that you'll see nonprofits engage in. So, I mean, there's lots of things at play.
I think she's getting some heat. I mean, I think these streams are in response from that heat. So I don't think it's like she's getting a ton of feedback where they're like, yeah, don't fight for anything. We're totally happy.
Oh, I'm not saying, no. I'm not saying she's getting people telling her not to fight for things. I'm saying the things that they want her to fight for might be markedly different.
Like what?
What do you mean, like what? Maybe there are people.
What are they telling her to fight for?
I don't know, because I don't read her emails, but I'm saying it might not be all of the things that we think she should do. It might be other things as well. I mean, look at Nancy Pelosi's district. We've talked about that. Does Nancy Pelosi represent the majority of Americans in the country? No, she does not. Does she represent the majority of constituents in her district? I would say yes.
Mm-hmm. AOC's district's nothing like that, though.
No, I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying we don't know. I don't know the dynamics of that. I don't think she's anything like Nancy Pelosi, though. I don't. Other than calling her Mama Bear, I don't think her politics are the same.
No, her politics. well, at least in words. I mean, I don't know. Talk is cheap. I mean, like she stands for better policies than Nancy Pelosi does, of course. But when she refuses to fight for them time and time again, I mean, you can't help but feel like, well, do you actually stand for this? Or did you just kind of say this to get elected?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm saying there's lots of factors here that I don't know about. I don't know, but I don't think she's one of the most popular politicians in the country. I will say that. I don't think so.
I don't know maybe she's not as popular as I think she is, but who's more? I mean, Bernie is the most popular politician in the country.
Yeah, okay, we can agree on that one.
So Bernie's the most popular. Well, then after Bernie...
By the way, I forgot to mention earlier, speaking of Bernie, he had a resolution on Brazil. When did he have this? I forgot to mention this earlier. Hang on. I want it now that we're talking about that. In September, he had... U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders on Wednesday said he was not able to get a single Senate Republican to support his resolution expressing support for Brazilian democracy in opposition to a military coup, a fact that the Vermont senator lamented as indicative of the state of democracy in the United States. So he was already back in September realizing that Brazil was headed for this coup. I forgot to mention this earlier.
So, yeah. All right. Well, I don't know. I guess we'll see.
I think we have one more AOC clip, though, right? One more?
There's more we should sit through? All right. Let's play the short one. I mean, it's so disappointing to see, because this is just complete opposite of everything she said before. I mean,
it is. Said, I mean, the criticism of the Freedom Caucus.
She's talking about the importance of Dem unity. Meanwhile, before she was saying, hey, it's totally okay to be a one-term congressperson if you just go for the mat for what you believe in. Right. Now she's saying like, oh, we got to unite. We got to do this for the party. First she was saying, oh, Joe Biden and I shouldn't even be in the same party. There is no left party. Now she's saying we're a wide tent. I mean, first she was showing up at Nancy Pelosi's office in protest. She used to live stream the frickin' her orientation. She live streamed it and was calling out how many lobbyists they were forced to listen to. Now she's talking about
which was great, by the way. I wish she would do stuff like that again.
All that stuff was great. I miss that AOC.
I do too.
That's the AOC I think that excited a lot of people.
Yeah, because she was holding power to account. Yeah, and that's what. Yeah, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you there. I think if she did do those things, she would be a more popular politician.
I agree on that. I don't disagree on that. All right, should we go to the super chat or
we just skip it? Should we let people vote?
What did you say in it? I forget. Play the short one, Colin. Play the 50 second. That's the only one we haven't listened to yet. I forget,
you know, and people say Lauren Boebert has more spine than you. Lauren Boebert won her race by 500 votes. Lauren Boebert took a Trump plus 9 district and nearly lost it to an up-and-coming Democrat as an incumbent member of Congress. Lauren Boebert is dramatically weakened. And the people of Colorado nearly sent her packing. If 500 people voted differently that day, this would not be happening right now. And so, you know, if you're a Republican, if you're a hard-standing Republican, she almost cost you your majority. And if it, frankly, wasn't for the New York State Democratic Party and the New York State Democratic Party's leadership and the incompetence there, we would be having that gavel right now. If between them and Lauren Boebert, we would be having a Democratic majority at this moment.
I'm no fan of Lauren Boebert, but I mean, that's a lot. Again, that's a lot different than the whole, hey, it's okay to be a one-term. I mean,
it's a lot different. Yeah, I agree with you. But also, I don't think that she's markedly weakened. Okay, granted, we thought she was losing that election. At first it appeared she had lost it the night of, but that she made this, you know, sort of comeback and just barely won this her reelection by 500 votes. But I don't think that she's markedly weaker for that.
A win's a win. I mean, whatever. Win, yeah. I honestly don't have the bandwidth to be like, oh, how powerful is Lauren Boebert in her district? But like, yeah, I mean, it's like she won.
But I think she's missing the point. The point, the criticism that is being lobbed at AOC over this is they're saying Boebert's more powerful because Boebert's willing to make a stand for the people that do agree with her and the people that support and vote her, right?
Yeah, Boebert's using leverage.
It's got nothing to do. She's using leverage. That's exactly right. It has nothing to do with how close she almost lost her election at all.
Well, and honestly, like, that kind of shows. I mean, again, like, I'm no Lauren Boebert fan, but like AOC framing it that way, like, well, she barely won. I mean, it's almost just like, okay, so is this just about your career, or is this about standing up for things?
That's how it comes across. No, it comes across
exactly
as that.
Like
yeah.
that. It comes across as that, where it's just like, okay, so it's your career first and policy second. This is, again, coming from the person who before said, I'm willing to be a one-term congressperson if it means fighting for things. So it's disappointing.
Yeah, it's weird.
And guess what, guys? If we don't kind of, you know, these are supposed to be our allies. We're told that the squad, they're our allies in government. So if we don't hold them to account, all we're doing is just grooming the new generation of Pelosi's, Obamas, and Clintons. That's what we're doing. And I don't want a new generation of them. I want something better. That's what I want. I want something better. So, you know, let's go to the chat. And and also, I'll tell you guys where you can find me. I am out on the road. January 28th, I will be in Tucson, Arizona. Get your tickets now, Tucson. That's January 28th. That's a stand-up show and the screening of my short film Loner, the premiere screening. So that's going to be out in the world soon. I'm really excited about it. February 10th, April 14th, and May 12th, I will be in Los Angeles, California, working on my 2023 hour. I should have more tour dates soon. Oh, and by the way, at the show in San Diego, when I got on stage, somebody gave Status Coup a shout out.
Yeah, so, that's awesome.
There you go. So now the challenge is on. That has to happen every show this year. So
all right, LA people. Where are LA people? Come on now.
LA Status Coupers, where are you? Tucson.
You better
get your tickets now. RonPlacone.com for tickets and all info. Tony, what's up, my friend? Hey, Tina and Ron, my favorite duo, make Monday good. Aw, thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate that.
Traverse Wolf, see you out in the UK, man. Under the UN Convention of Human Rights, is KFC considered chemical warfare? It should be. It should be. John Sardina, I want healthcare to be funded by Republicans' generosity. Yeah, there you go. Well, it's either that or thoughts and prayers. It's that or thoughts and prayers. Christian999, what's up? Thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. Happy New Year to my Status Coup family. Wishing you all and our enemies nothing but good things in 2023. We will reign, working class people. I'm with you. And Kristen, again, AOC is just trying to put in her 5 years so she can get that $100,000 pension. Yeah, maybe. Peace. So Peace agrees with you here. AOC's not as popular as you think she is, Ron. AOC has next to no chance to be POTUS. Maybe not, but again, like, who does?
Right now, there's nobody. There is a rudderless political system in the United States right now.
I agree with
giant
that.
power gap, a giant power vacuum. Who knows what's going to fill it?
I just think she still has like an iconic type thing. And it's like
I think she would if she utilized her leverage and power more. I think she's not doing that.
No, I agree.
In the clips we play, which is making her weaker, not more powerful, even though she's apparently thinks the opposite, which is.
I don't disagree with that. I completely agree with you there. I just think it's still, I mean, there's kind of an Obama-fication of it all. You know, I mean, think about like where he started. And then, I mean, he did absolutely nothing, but it didn't go away. So it's like, I could totally see the same thing happen to her. In which case, yes, I think she could totally be.
She's not the orator that he is, though. She's if she was giving these amazing speeches and was able to like sort of, impress people in the way that Obama. Her word salad speeches. I go back to her the Israel-Palestine one. It was
she doesn't have the
salad.
She doesn't have the oratory skills quite at his level. Obama was a very, very talented orator. Yeah. I mean, I think that's you can't dispute that.
He would grasp people. I mean, I remember, when I was covering his campaign, I would watch, and people would just be like completely sucked up.
Every word. They were hanging on every word because I do that. I'm cool as a cucumber. It's what I do. And he, I mean, dude, like the guy just like had a coffee in his hand, set it down, drained a 3-pointer, walked away. I mean, yeah, like he's smooth. But, smooth Reagan. He was smooth Reagan. Now we have Rip Van Winkle Reagan.
Oh, he's not as bad as Reagan. I hate Reagan.
How is he different?
Oh my God, let's have that conversation a different day. He
definitely
called
himself
different.
Reagan. He described himself as a Reagan Republican.
Not a Reagan Republican, no.
All right, you'll have to tell me one policy where he's different.
I think he's center one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you serious?
How is he different? He described himself as a moderate Republican. How is he different?
Okay, but I don't think Reagan's a moderate Republican. I guess that's where my disconnect is. I think Obama's
well, I don't think there's any such thing as a moderate Republican. I'm just quoting Obama. Obama is a right wing. I mean, dude.
He's center right. His policy is center right. I agree with you. His economics.
That's being generous. I mean, it's like he was the same on war. He is against universal health care. He gave us Mitt Romney's healthcare plan.
Okay, but wait, hang on. Yeah, I agree with you there, but I don't think the Obamacare was Mitt Romney's healthcare program.
It was literally Mitt Romney's healthcare.
Not going to dispute that, but I think that he did support universal healthcare at one time. But this is a conversation for another day. I don't think
he said something. There's quotes of Reagan saying everyone should have healthcare. I mean, quotes are pretty cheap.
Not universal healthcare.
It doesn't matter. He said everyone should have health care. I mean,
as long as they're willing to pay for it and not privatized by.
There's quotes about universal health care that could be like linked to Nixon and Reagan. That's why everyone's like, "Holy cow!" Like, look how far to the right we've come. Because they used to bullshit about this stuff because they did. They didn't mean it. It wasn't sincere. But even they would give it lip service. So if Obama did too,
at the same time they're calling it socialized medicine. Yeah, they didn't mean the same thing, but
it doesn't matter. I mean, it's like, so, if you're saying like Obama maybe like had more friendly rhetoric, okay.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying these are different things. That's like arguing about access to healthcare versus having a robust Medicare for all system. They're not the same.
Gave us. That's exactly what Obama gave. Exactly, and he gave us the same.
I understand that. That doesn't mean that he doesn't want this other thing over here, though, and it doesn't mean that Reagan ever wanted this thing over here. I'm saying those are all different things.
It doesn't matter. I mean,
it does matter.
Okay, how?
Because one guy, are you serious? One guy is saying.
Yes, I am serious. Because we don't have universal health care. How are you going to tell the thousands of people that die because we don't have a universal healthcare system? How are you going to tell some of those people who can't afford their medicine, hey, I think at one point this other guy kind of wanted it?
Because those two things aren't related, Ron.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
You're saying, oh, he's all right. Yeah, you'll have to give me a difference one of these days. Other than I think Obama might have wanted something nice once. Okay, maybe he did.
Really not what I'm saying, but okay.
Then I don't know what you're saying then. Because, that's pretty much what you said. You said, like, I think Obama wanted that at one point, though. Reagan never did. Okay, well, it didn't materialize into anything.
No,
So what's the difference?
Ron, you're telling me that Reagan one time supported universal health care.
I did not say that. I said he gave it lip service. That was what I said.
He didn't even do that though. I
Yes,
mean, what? All right.
Here, I'll Google it right now.
No. No. All right, let's finish the super chats.
Real quick, while you're doing that, I'll come in here and say Jordan went to give an update that we'll be doing a fundraising drive on Saturday, January 28th, and Sunday, January 29th, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern, both days. Jordan will be hosting with a bunch of special guests both days. We'll update you guys throughout the month on who the guests will be and stuff like that, but something to mark in your guys' calendars. And also, Jordan had popped this story that just broke of where'd the description go? Classified documents were found in Biden's post-vice president's private office, and it's being referred to the Justice Department.
Wait, whoa, what? What's happening? This breaking right now?
Yeah, he had just sent it to me now.
Can we scroll down through some of that? Colin, I can't see it. Can you read that, Ron?
Several classified documents from President Joe Biden's time as vice president were discovered last fall in a private office. The National Archives has referred the matter to the Justice Department for further investigation. Biden's lawyers found the government materials in November while closing out a Washington, D.C. based office that Biden used as part of his relationship with the University of Pennsylvania, where he was, he was an honorary professor? Oh, that's so offensive. What the fuck? All right. Anyway, fewer than a dozen classified documents were found at Biden's office. The source said it's unclear what the documents pertain to or why they were taken to Biden's private office. Federal office holders are required by law to relinquish official documents and classified records when their government service ends.
Wow, I'm curious to see where this goes. That's not good.
Okay. All right. So anyway, Peace Robert. We'll get back to the chat here. Peace Robert is saying that AOC is not as popular. She may be, but again, who is? Tony Dallas, what's up? How come the squad can't explain to the public what they need to insulate themselves from the coercion of the establishment? The public is with them. Good point, Tony. I'm with you.
Yeah, no, I'm with you too. The only thing that I could rationalize was that was my point of saying that if people aren't emailing her and telling her what they want, and she's only hearing from this other side, the more corporate side Dems that are saying, no, we want this instead. I mean, that could affect the way she decides things. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm being charitable to reasons why that could be, because it doesn't make sense. She's literally just given up her power. If all of her people are behind her and they're telling her, we're behind you, this is what we want you to do, it doesn't make sense that she wouldn't leverage that.
Des Bush Fleisch, I'm for an annual left driving license for left politicians. Right? Teresa273, thank you so much for the super sticker. Much appreciated. Nikki O'Brien, what's up? Maybe 4-year terms for all. Why 6 for Senate, but only 2 for House of Representatives? Seems like enough time to focus on re-election, good intentions or not. That's a good point, Nikki.
You know what, Nikki? I agree with you 100%. 2 is too short because everybody does is campaign. They spend the entire time, even the 2 years they're, instead of doing people's business, they're perpetually campaigning. And 6 is too long.
I think we should
good.
just make it 4 and then abolish the Senate. That's what I think we should do. Just abolish, because I think the Senate's pointless. There's no reason for it to exist. So just knock out the Senate.
I know. I want the Senate. No way.
You like the Senate too? You think it's fair that like some people their vote matters more than others because there's like a total disproportional representation?
It's disproportional in the House of Representatives too. And if they were I'll tell you this: if they were willing to actually reapportion the House of Representatives to have it fit population, which means California would get way more representatives than what we have now. I'll have that conversation.
But the Senate, like, it's great. We should just leave it the way it is.
No, we should abolish the filibuster.
We should get rid of the Senate. Why go halfway? Go all the way.
No, because I like the Senate. No, I don't want. What do you because like then you end up nothing but gerrymandered districts. Like there's a.
We have that anyway. We don't
with the Senate. Not with the Senate. You can't gerrymander the
Senate's
Senate.
even worse though because it's
I don't agree with you. It's not
just
worse.
as bad. So
A Congress that is only gerrymandered Senate or congressional districts, I think is worse on its own without anything to balance it.
We already have in the Senate.
We have balance because the Senate can.
No, we don't though. The Senate's completely imbalanced. It's completely imbalanced because it's based on population, not at all.
Which is good. I mean, you think a gerrymandered district is makes
no
more sense?
there shouldn't be gerrymandered. It should just be straight up. I'm saying that the Senate.
It's not straight up. The Senate is straight up because everybody in the state votes.
But the Senate is totally disproportioned to the population because like you get the same amount of
Because
Senate.
there's 2 per each. Yeah, okay, fine.
Yes.
We can change that.
So-
If you want to add 3 to more populous
When are they
states,
going to do
then go
that?
ahead.
That's not
They're
going to happen. Just
It's not gonna
abolish
happen.
it.
No, absolutely not.
Outlaw
Totally against that.
gerrymandering, abolish the Senate. There's no reason for it. It's just more bureaucratic bullshit.
I don't agree with you.
I think it just sucks. It's the Senate. Like there's like I mean, there's a couple good people in this Senate. I mean, you got Bernie, but like we'd be better off if we had a true. I mean, I think we'd be better off just abolishing the whole thing and having a people's legislature. I think there's no way it'd be worse than what we have now. It'd be a train wreck, which would be better than what we have now. But like, but I say like, why even have the Senate? Like, why just get rid of it? But you're right. I mean, you'd have to get rid of gerrymandering too. You'd need both.
Yeah, I mean, a gerrymandered Congress on its own is way worse to me.
Would you be for abolishing the Senate if we got rid of gerrymandering?
I could be convinced, perhaps. Yes, I would be more open to it.
All right, that's fair. I can accept that. I can accept like, all right, if we can gerrymander free the House.
Gerrymandered districts in a Congress is just frightful to me. I mean, you literally have states where the popular vote goes to the Democratic Party and the vast majority of the seats are going to the Republican Party. There's something really wrong with that. To me, that's not better.
I'm with you.
That's
I mean, I don't.
Okay.
Well, I guess it's not fair to say better, but it's just, I don't know. I mean, they're both completely undemocratic in their own ways. Like they're the opposite of democratic in their own ways.
We need to get rid of the filibuster too. I do. I think.
Well, yeah, I'm
that
for
should
that.
that shouldn't be a controversial thing to get rid of, but somehow it is.
That should be a no-brainer. but I say just get rid of the whole thing. But yeah, I think it should be. Yeah, 2 years. You're just always campaigning. Because we're always campaigning in this country.
Always doing fundraising and campaigning, and you're not working on the people's business.
They need to have time limits. We need to do what they do.
I think it should be time limits, yeah, but 2 is too short. It's too short.
No, I mean time limits on campaign seasons and stuff.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
It needs to be like 2 weeks. It needs to be like, okay, for 2 weeks,
Wouldn't that be
we're
great?
gonna deliberate this.
That'd be great.
I think in other countries it's like 6 at max in some cases. So, but for us, it's just ongoing. It's constant. It never ends. So, Nikki, I'm with you. Yeah. So, thank you, Tony. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Peace Robert Walker. Thank you, Tony Dallas. Thank you, Despos Fleisch. Thank you, Teresa273, and thank you, Nikki O'Brien. Thank you guys so much for your
got a super sticker too.
We did get a super sticker. That was from Teresa.
Cobb fan. Oh.
Teresa. Oh wait, we got another one.
Cobb
never mind.
fan.
Okay, Cobb fan. We got one from Australia.
Yeah.
We got an Australian super sticker. Thank you, Cobb fan, and thank you for tuning in. I think it's really
early.
It
is.
What time is it in Australia right now? I think it's really early. So
9
thank you.
hours?
Thank you for working on that time zone. They're in the future. I know that. Australia's in the future. But they're like really far in the future. So, yeah, people are bringing up stuff like public financing and whatnot too. Yes, exactly. Get rid of gerrymandering.
Yeah, I agree.
Get rid of
financing only. Yeah.
Public financing, money out of politics, limits on the campaign season itself, 4-year for the House, no gerrymandering. Then I say, once you get all that, get rid of the Senate. We don't need it anymore. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Or make it proportional to population.
But they don't even do that with the House of the Congress now is supposed to be that, and it's not. I mean,
I know. I'm saying fix that.
Do you know the reason that is because they don't want to give the quote unquote liberal blue states any more seats in Congress than they already have. It's very disproportionate now based on population. They haven't added seats when they should have been adding seats all along.
Well, and that's why they do what they do in the Senate too. But it's like the truth of the matter is like it should be based on the population. It should be based on people who live in a frickin' place.
Yeah.
Like why does land isn't capable of having rational thoughts about politics?
I don't know.
It's not grass can't do that.
Bro, have you met most people? The land.
Sand. Anyway, so yeah, I hear you. All right. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for being here. I'll be back tomorrow. And of course, you can check out all my tour dates at ronplacone.com. And yeah, I think we covered it.
And I'll see everybody on Thursday, back on Thursday.
Yeah. Thank you again, Nikki, Teresa, Des Bushfleisch, Tony Dallas, Peace, Robert Walker, Kristen, Tony D. And what was our last one? We got a Cobb fan from Australia. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you tomorrow. Tina will see you Thursday.
Yep. See you Thursday.
And, Status Coup signing out.